activity of your life, everything begins to be an opportunity to remind you of how you're connected to the great all there is. Don't you know? You know, like we spoke several weeks ago, even if I'm brushing my teeth, well, who made the toothbrush? And then who cared for the children who became the inventors of the toothpaste? You know, that's the sort of thing. So you let that be in your awareness. And that word unification, it's tricky. You got to watch that. Because if you're like me, once again, slip back into the old idea. There's God. Here I am. I have to get unified. Now, back to the idea of the drop in the ocean. How does a drop of water unify with the ocean? The only way it can do that is if it's not in the ocean. See, and in this context, no, we're talking about the drop in the ocean, and the only thing it can do, I suppose, is to become more deeply aware of just how much of its nature is ocean-like. That is our work in unification, to get really close with this idea of, oh my goodness, everything about me is spirit, and then I let the first activities of my day remind me of that, and then that's the second step, because what's coming is the bulk of my day, walking through the day, the middle part, you know. I liken that to the realization step, and I call it a day of mindfulness, because I'm going to walk through this day with something specific in mind to guide me. The technical term is realization. Once again, a word that will guide us into the content and understanding of the third step of prayer. Realization. What is in my mind? Like, you know, those comics where the light bulb goes off and the balloon says, oh, I got it. That's what realization means. You know, I started off my day. I started to get my unification clear, and all of a sudden, I got it. And so I hold that in mind. Oh my goodness, then I'm walking through my day. It's just as if I'm walking through a movie, because everything I see around me is evidence of the divine playing itself out. And my task is to look at that. You know, because sometimes it's in disguise. Sometimes it's in a Halloween costume. You know, so you walk through the day and look at it, because then you start to notice how your mind interacts with what it sees. And then the way your mind interacts with what it sees is how you make things real. What you realize, what you make real. You know, so sometimes it's helpful to have something to guide you through the day as you are looking, you know. So I was thinking about in 2004, there was this meeting of the World Parliament of Churches. And in it, the attendants were, those people in attendance were invited to consider these questions. As a spiritual religious organization, what can we do to stop violence that is caused by religions? As a religious spiritual organization, what can we do to address the water pollution issue in our world? As a religious spiritual organization, what can we do to address poverty in nations of the world? And I remembered these because at the time I thought, I don't know what I can do on a world planet level, but I can make it personal. I can take it into me personally and use it as a personal guide in the bulk of my day to see what is in my consciousness and what I'm making real with how my mind interacts with what it sees. You know, so I remember at that time looking at, for example, the issue of water. Asleep, not living a day of prayer, I brush my teeth, I let the tap run. Awake, mindfulness, a day of prayer, I turn it off. I start there. I looked at, you know, violence. I don't know what I can do on a planetary level, but what if I start right here? Asleep, asleep, I'm amazed at just how violent my little peace-loving mind is. For example, I can't tell you how mean I was this week. I was mean. I was on the phone with the Bank of America representative for the, the Premier member services, because, I need Premier service, And I was mean to that person. And I was just remembering as I was writing these notes that announcement at the beginning of the call. It says, this conversation is being recorded for quality control, and I thought, please God, don't let anybody ever hear that conversation, because I thought, I want peace in the world. I want war to stop, but I can't even be pleasant on the phone. Interesting. Asleep, have conversations like that. Amazing. Wake up, and then it is a reminder instead, be gentle in sharing what is true for me. Be decent about presenting my position. Tell it with as much honesty and humility as possible. And mature, realize that sometimes you and I don't always get what we want. Sometimes not even justice. Sometimes not even fairness. It happens. And to look at that, let it in. Wow. How about indebtedness? I don't know what I can do for other nations, when our own very rich nation is struggling with debt itself. But what about personally? Take it in. Asleep? Spend money I don't have. Awake? Bring my personal finances into order as best as I can without guilt or blame. Just I do my work. Asleep? Spend it all on myself and my own needs. Awake? Mindful? Share it. Develop a really good, generous, charitable giving program. Now, I just use these as examples of what you might give yourself as an assignment as you walk through a day of prayerful mindfulness. Mindfulness means, what do I realize about what's going on? What am I making real? You see, now that puts you in the place of power and creation. It's not what's God going to do for me. It's my movement through this world. I'm making something real. And another way of asking that is, how is what I'm doing affecting the lives of children 7 generations from now? Does this one drop of water count? And at some point in a day like this, you'll start to feel the natural shift, where you'll start to appreciate what you're doing. You'll start to feel the celebration of this, kind of drawing to a close. Maybe it's in the afternoon hours, and if it's been a good one, you might even start to feel giddy if you keep on, as if you've been having this party with life, and so you're filled up with gratitude, And of course, sometimes you're not. You don't feel grateful at all, And what I've learned about that is actually you can just shift gears manually. You put on an alarm clock maybe, or you have a reminder in yourself that at 4 o'clock I'm shifting gears, or 5 o'clock, or whatever it is, and you can begin the practice of actually telling yourself what you appreciate about what you see. What is before you? I love this leaf. You just start to let that be really, even if you're working on other things. I'm so glad I've got a desk. You just start going into that, and it gets you in the mood, You can just be silent about it. You don't have to go around telling people what's going on in your mind. I noticed that, just this feeling of blessing towards somebody else, it's like it creates something in me. And I think maybe it creates something in the other person too, because I feel that on the other side. Sometimes I can feel other people's blessing attitude towards me. They don't have to tell me. They don't have to say how much they appreciate me or hug me or give me anything. I can just feel from the atmosphere of them. Maybe I'm making it up. It's okay. That's fine. So how do you do this part? You just begin. And you let this completion part take you right into the final parts of your days. Just like the beginning was an opening, this closing part is coming up. This is so different from how I generally live my life and how I lived my life up into, being a minister. I used to sometimes rush through the day, all the way to sleep time. And then plunk down exhausted, maybe even disturbed or excited, I don't know, and then turn on the TV to help me relax while I watch the news. So now I'm looking at a different strategy. I think I can still watch TV if I want, but it depends on am I awake or asleep.